It's sunlight and sleep and breathing practice and hot and cold. Very, very simple things. That's my drive, is with that gift, I can do all the research and read all the books and put it together and simplify it and, again, just help people. I mean, that's really my drive, is to help people and empower them in their own health.
You're listening to the Kristof Lewis Podcast, a podcast where I have conversations with inspirational people. My name is Chris, but my family calls me Kristof. My goal is to have as many conversations as possible with people who have forged their own path by pursuing their dreams, making them a reality, all the while emitting positivity and sharing this knowledge with others. I seek these people out and share this information with you, proving to the world that you can do what makes you happy and do what you want for a living while being a good human being. We'll talk about careers, but we'll also cover any story that inspires. Let's do this while helping each other. Thanks for listening. I'm happy you're here. Hey, what's up, my friends? Welcome to the Kristof Lewis Podcast. This is conversation number 64, and I just had another wonderful conversation. I'm literally never going to stop doing this because not only is this beneficial for everyone to hear these conversations, and I think it's absolutely crucial to share your story, but selfishly, I do this for me. I absolutely love sharing my own story along all these conversations, and I walk away every single time feeling so much better after recording these conversations with these absolutely and truly wonderful people. My guest today is Dr. Trisha Smith, and she was a sports chiropractor. She transitioned away from that to continue to help people, but in a different manner, and she's one of the first United States certified Wim Hof instructors, and like I said, she's just an all-around amazing human being. She just allowed me to open up as well, which was incredible. It's so important to be able to do that. So there are many things that I hope you take away from this conversation, but I really hope you take that away as well and just apply these things. Don't only just listen to the topics and subjects that we cover, and it's a great story for sure. Like, I love listening to these people, but these are very intentional. So take out these bits and pieces and apply them to your life, and I guarantee you that you will see results. You can find this amazing conversation and all the other conversations and the contemplation episodes on kristoflewis.com/podcast, and you can find me on Instagram at Kristof Lewis. So without further ado, welcome to the Kristof Lewis Podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
I'm super excited. I was just telling you a second ago off camera, I had your friend Matt Soul on here. I can't even remember how many conversations ago it was now. I think this is 64 already, and I think he was in the 50s somewhere. So it was a few weeks ago, and man, I guess I told you, I had just really absolutely enjoyed my conversation with him, and I could just tell that if you're friends with him, like, you know, you're good to go. You're good for, good to go all around. But what really intrigued me about you specifically was not just the type of training and the teaching that you do that coincides with Matt, but that we focus on career transitions a lot here. Almost every single conversation I talk with somebody that had some like dramatic career transition, and I know you were a sports chiropractor, you retired and you transitioned out of that into kind of doing something completely different. So I kind of want to know, like, what made you, because obviously it's not easy to get to the level of where you're practicing that type of thing. So what kind of was going on in your brain for you to transition out of that into what you're doing now? And then what are you doing now?
Yeah. So even further back than that, I've had, talking about career transitions.
Yeah.
I've had lots
Bring it
of
back.
those.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I went into college. I went to University of San Diego here in San Diego, and I played college softball. I initially went in, I was going to be marine biology. That was going to be my degree.
Very cool.
And as I went through taking some classes, I'm like, man, I really want to go to med school. And so I went, and I was pretty much, pre-med. Yeah. Did a lot of stuff still with biology and the environment and everything. And after college, I was like, I just need a break for a second before I commit to medical school, which you pretty much commit the rest of your life to. I better make sure that's, really what I want to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's one thing to watch with career changes is, number one, being really conscious and self-aware of what are you passionate about, but not only that, but like, what do you want to do every day? What gets you out of bed?
Yeah.
And the second part would be like, to go test that out before you go jump all the way in, because a lot of times,
test the waters.
I've seen people want to be teachers and they go teach and they hate it. Or I have a friend that just moved to Spain that was thinking about opening retreat centers, and she was like, no way do I want to do that. She's like, I love teaching at retreats, but I don't want to run a retreat center. So that was my thing. I'm like, okay, I'm going to just take a break for a minute before I go straight into med school. I started working for an environmental company. Obviously needed to make money. So I was working for an environmental company, and it was fun. I got to track birds and travel all around the world. I lived on Guam for a little bit, which is a little teeny island.
Yeah, sure.
Literally in the middle of the ocean between Hawaii and Japan. And I worked on military bases that were shut down, and I helped clean up old firing ranges. All this really fun.
Oh, wow.
It was
super unique. Yeah, fun.
Great job. Yeah. I got to travel, got, paid well. I was, had all the benefits. And then, still like just, okay, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? Yeah. So now I'm in my early 30s, and I'm like, well, I want to, I don't want to go to med school. I knew at that time that med school wasn't the answer. So then I actually looked into dental school, because I'm like, oh, well, dentists make a pretty good living. So maybe that would be good. I took the entrance exams to go to school. I visited a few schools. And then I was really thinking about, I'm like, man, do I really want to be in somebody's mouth all day? I don't know. The money.
It's a good question to ask yourself, though.
It's so good. Yeah. And then I went on a different track. I'm like, okay, well, I knew what I wanted to do and how I wanted to treat people. Yeah. Which was diagnose, treat, and do some kind of rehab exercise or movement. Yeah. That was always important to me, and empowering other people in that. Yeah. Absolutely. So then it was a choice between physical therapy and chiropractic. At that time, chiropractic was really the only way you can have autonomy, or, somebody can just come see you without a referral. Okay. So that's essentially why I became a chiropractor, not necessarily because that's what I wanted to, but it gave me the scope of practice to then design my practice in exactly how I wanted to treat people.
Oh,
so
that's very cool.
I wasn't the chiro that had, this high volume practice, seeing 75 people, a day for 5 minutes. I saw people for hour and a half, learned a lot. I know you're big on self-education.
Yeah, absolutely.
Learned a ton, went through all different certifications. And then I had my private practice. Ended up to be very successful. I didn't do any advertisement. It was all referrals, word of mouth. I treated top celebrities, professional athletes. Then it got to the point of like, okay, well, how am I feeling? Yeah. This is cool, but LA itself is not a good place for me to live. As more of an introvert and needs quiet.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it just chips away at your nervous system every day. The noise, the people, everything. So I started just being really present with myself. Like, okay, well, this can't be like this. I'm not going to be healthy. It's great to have this successful practice, but I knew I couldn't live in LA. And then I also knew that I wanted to help more people than just one-on-one. Okay. And help them in a way of empowering them and them not being dependent on me. I think that was my biggest.
Sure. Yeah, that's awesome.
My biggest thing I found when I got into practice was like, okay, and it was never just about a hip, a shoulder, a low back pain. It was, how do I really help this person's human performance overall and expand their capacities? Because, as you know, and you strive, we can do way more than we ever believed we can do. Absolutely. Physiologically, mentally, everything. So that was another way and then, essentially that's kind of where Wim Hof came into the picture. Then I just decided, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to have to give up my practice and move back. So I moved back to San Diego. Love it, and I pretty much jumped without a net. I have Wim Hof, but,
that's what you got to do sometimes.
Keep that up. Yeah.
God, I love that. No, I love all that. That's like an amazing answer. Like you said so many points. Like I'm trying to keep track of him. Like you pretty much like hit all the billets that I just absolutely love talking about. So I'm like so excited right now. But it's just cool, and I love what one of the things to take away, and in no particular order, that I want people to notice is that like you did have a lot of formal education to do what you wanted to do, but even though you had that, you didn't stop learning, right? You did a lot of this continuous education, and then even more so, you did a lot of self-reflection, like after you were doing it for a while, and I'm sure you had it even while you were doing things, but it really got to a point, you said, where you're just looking inside and you're becoming even more and more so self-aware and like really asking yourself like, okay, this is fun, you know, maybe I'm making good money and I'm helping people and I want to help people, which is another thing I love talking about, but you're like, is this really what I want to be doing? Is this the environment that I want to be living in? And I've been to LA once and it was super crazy. Like it was just crazy getting in there. It was crazy getting out. Like, I'm glad I'm here talking to you. I made it out okay. And then like San Diego's great. Like, so I was in the Navy for 9 years and I was in San Diego. I love San Diego. Nice. That's cool. You said you're from there and then you moved back there. And I think you said you were initially working within like marine biology. And it just made me like, it flashed back like real quick tangent. Like it made me flash back to when I was at La Jolla Cove and I would dive out there. I'd do a lot of free diving and my wife will tell anybody like, God, he dove every day for like 2 hours. Like I loved it out there. So I was, I'm almost surprised to see that you got away from like marine biology and all of that as well. But you know, like you said, you have to test the waters. That's a super important part that I think to take away from here amongst all the amazing points that you said is test the waters. You don't have to go like all in on something immediately and think like, oh, all right, this is awesome. This is fun. Okay, now I'm stuck here and like I'm in really deep and it's going to be a lot harder. Like, I don't think you're ever in a position where you can't reverse or pivot from your career, but maybe you make it harder on yourself. So if you're in the position to test the waters, as you've just said, I would highly recommend that as well. I think that was a great point. And then, you know, you said, obviously, ask within, ask yourself within. And then one of the other great points you made was like, I talk about helping other people. Like it's really good to help yourself, but like, why not help other people along the way, especially being vulnerable and sharing your story? But you didn't want to just help other people and have it stop there, but you wanted to help other people help themselves. And I know that's like when I was like talking about this stuff with Matt, and it's just a huge thing in your community of like awesome people. That's really broad, but like with everything you guys are instructors, you guys are teachers, and you're also always looking in on yourself at the same time, because I think that helps other people grow, right? You're setting that example and that leadership. But that was definitely the thing that I took away from his conversation as well. And there's just a lot of great points that coincide and a lot of unique points here. But I think my favorite one is just test the waters, in regard to careers at least. And I guess that kind of leads me into something else. We just talked a little bit about helping others, of course. I love asking people, like, maybe why do you really enjoy helping other people? Or why do you think you enjoy to help people? I mean, because you could keep all that information into yourself, and you could just go about, being a doctor as you were, formally in a sense, and doing that and not sharing that knowledge. But now, like, you met Wim, and you're able to get certified as one of the first United States instructors like that, and you're able to just like continue to coach people and help people. But I just love asking the question, like, why?
Yeah, it's a great question. That's really what drove me all along to those different career changes and diving into more education. Like I always told my dad, I said, if somebody paid me, I would just be a student my whole life. Like that would actually make me happy. And that was my drive, was serving people, helping people, empowering them, especially in their health. Yeah. And that's essentially where my Expand Your Human.
I know. I saw that today. I was like, I got to get one of those shirts. That's awesome.
Yes, I'll get you one.
Oh my God. Awesome.
Yeah. So, and that's where it started, it started when I was in practice, and everything that I do, everything that I learn, every research paper that I read, is all for other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, I've been lucky I believe my gift is, people call me the synthesizer. So I can go get different certifications, and, I've studied things from brain health to longevity to human connection. And I can take all these disparate ideas and, put them together, and make them very simple for people to understand.
That's really powerful to have that. Not a lot of people can do that. It's like, what's the saying? I'm trying to think, like, if you know it really well, then you can explain it to like a fifth grader, right? Or something like that. So be able to comprehend things at such a high level and constantly intaking knowledge and new knowledge, like you said, new research papers. I mean, you're at the top of your game there. So be able to take all that information in and then make it easier for other people to understand it's a superpower, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel lucky for that, for sure. And that's always my goal.
Yeah.
Is how can I take something very complex, like, the science of Wim Hof, or, simple things in my Expand Your Human. And that's what I actually saw with all of these different disciplines, especially in regards to our health or human connection, is it's all just simple things that this modern environment has kind of taken away from us or made very difficult.
Sure.
So that's what I love. It's like, no, we don't need all this fancy stuff, this expensive stuff. It's sunlight and sleep and breathing practice and hot and cold.
Yeah.
It's very, very simple things. So that's my drive, is with that gift, I can do all the research and read all the books and put it together and simplify it. And again, just help people. I mean, that's really
that's great.
My drive is to help people and empower them in their own health.
Absolutely. I love that answer. And not only, like, I was thinking as you were talking, like, doctors help people, clearly, right? So you've always, in my opinion, just having met you, it seemed like you've always wanted to help people, and you've just kind of changed the manner, you've changed the manner of how you've helped people. And I think that begs another point, is like, change. Be okay with change. And change is completely all right. You can still help people. You were helping people the whole entire time. You just kind of changed how you did it. And you looked inside and you said, is this something that I really want to do? And you're like, well, no, not really. I mean, I enjoy it, but not a ton. Let's pivot here. Let's kind of take it another way. But underlying all of that, I'm still able to help people. So just having met you and like hearing that, I think that's really cool to kind of analyze that and see that you were doing it the whole time, and you can still do like your underlying passion. You can kind of just change, I guess, the vehicle of how you deliver that, right?
Exactly. That's awesome the way you said it.
No,
now when I look back, it's like, and you can build, so everything that I've learned, is now all together. Like, I'm still using it all. There's nothing that I threw out or cool. Completely pivoted away. You just pivot with all of your stuff and your foundation.
It's like a snowball effect in true form. You're absolutely keeping all that information as you roll. And I joked about it before we started recording, but for those of you that are not watching the YouTube video and you're watching the audio on iTunes or something, like, I was cracking up because Dr. Trisha Smith here has a whiteboard that covers her entire wall, and it's like, it's pretty much wallpaper, and I have these two flimsy ones here, and I'm like, I was like, dude, I need to, I wrote it down. It's the righty whiteboard. So if you're trying to get your whiteboard game strong, I'm gonna pivot right now mid conversation and say, like, I'm super impressed, and that's how I cracked the code for Dr. Smith. She's got whiteboards from room to room, wall to wall, and this is how you're able to successfully snowball your information. But in all seriousness, like, yes. That's awesome. That's like another good point, and I'm glad we're able to kind of bounce those off of each other in that manner. Like, I can't remember I'm not even going to go to that stat. I'm not going to try to pull a rusty stat out of my head right now, but essentially, if you're able to pull these information that you've learned all over the years and just like pull like the good stuff out that is really important, and then continue to apply it, and then the more you apply it, the more you'll remember it. And then especially being a teacher and an instructor, right? They say, like, if you get lectured at, or however you phrase that, if you are in a lecture and you get lectured, like, you're going to be like not really subjected to really taking that information out. But on the flip side, if you, an instructor, are teaching people, and like, for example, the Wim Hof stuff, you're not just like standing up there and like throwing your hand around and saying, this is how you breathe and this is how you just deal with the cold, man. Like, that's not what you're doing. Like, you're going in there and you're like passionately describing these things, and you're going in there and you're teaching them how to do it. You're getting up close and personal, and people are a lot more susceptible to learning in that manner. So it is really cool to hear about how all those things string together. I absolutely agree about that. And then, of course, one of the other things you kind of mentioned a little bit is self-education. I know we talked about that a little bit, and I always like kind of peering into people's minds about that as well, because, you know, you being a doctor is a great person to ask. And I've had collegiate professors on here, and I've had, you know, high school teachers. I've had a lot of entrepreneurs that are like, you know, of course, huge into self-education, and I am too. And I can be strongly opinionated on, and I think college definitely has its place. Like, if you want to be a doctor, like, it's super important. But I do like to make note to the listeners that I don't think it's like the end all be all. Like, it may not be your path. It just may be somebody else's path. And like you said, like, you could have, and, you know, who knows, but you could have done what you did now without it. But I don't think so. I think your path is very unique, and I think the way you went was perfect for you, because here we are talking about it. But I don't know. How do you have any kind of opinion either way about the difference or the contrast between formal education and self-education, and how it may or may not be applicable to somebody on their journey along what we've just discussed?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially in today's world, you know, I think, of course, there are some, you know, careers, if say a lawyer, a doctor.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that's, you know, the road you have to go down, because that's just the road that was built.
You need a license. You need all these, you know. I get it.
Exactly. And I think those things are good, and those things, especially for me, you know, being a doctor, that has given me, you know, that base as well. So I think it goes back to, what do you really want to be when you grow up? And again, that changes throughout your life. So, and don't be scared. I mean, I went to chiropractic school when I was early 30s.
Oh, that's a good point to make. Yeah, I like that. That's a good point.
Early 30s. And I was in class. You know, I was one of the oldest people in my class. I still had that environmental job, so I was working virtually full time, and I was valedictorian of my class.
Oh, that's
which was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All these young students.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah. So
here
it's
comes
amazing.
life experience.
I mean, I don't think age, or again, you see it more and more today. You know, people are just changing more than once.
Sure.
And there's nothing wrong with it, and shoot, anything is possible. So
I totally agree, and I just love that you brought it in there, and you end it with like, age doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't matter. Like, what do you want to do? And if you don't know, that's great, but like, work on finding it. But once you do find it, like, I don't care how old you are, like, go to college. If that's what is required of you to do what you want to do, like, go do it. Like, I hope people don't like think I'm saying ever don't go to college. I feel like I'm pretty fair about it. Like, if it's for you, it's for you, and if it's not, like, it's not. Like, just don't think that it's the end all be all, and don't sway to one side or the other necessarily. But then, like, age is another thing that comes up. I've done this is 64 weeks, like, and age comes up all the time. Like, I've had people on here in their teens. I've had people on here in their 60s, and I think it caps out at 60s right now, but I've had people all over the spectrum, you know, and like, it doesn't matter. Like, all these people have done amazing things at amazing ages, and sometimes it comes earlier and sometimes it comes later. But if you want to do something now, just like, now is the best time to do it, so go do it. So I love that you said that. It doesn't matter. Right. I just think it's so funny. You were saying, like, you know, all those kids in there, and then you're just like, you just come in and then you like crush it too. You are literally the best person there. And I think that's really cool. One of the other things, or a couple of the other things that I had seen about you, you said that you have anemia, and like, working out is really hard for you. And I think that was like very vulnerable, you know, to share, because like, people know, listeners, like, I have a severe neck problem right now. Like, I can't work out, and it's really hard, but I've substituted it with like my workout time with reading. So now I'm just like hyper reading more than I've ever read in my life. So to be able to substitute a negative, like, I was depressed for a hyper second, and then I was like, pump the brakes, man. Let's figure out something good to do in its place. But I think it was really cool for you to share something like that physically as well. You were talking about how working out is hard, but like, doing all that breath work that you love and you love to teach has really helped you get through that. And I think that was really important. It can be really devastating and maybe overwhelming and even depressing to have something physically that may inhibit you initially, but to fight through that, it's really important to me to be able to share that.
Yeah, I've just in the last, since February this year has probably been the biggest obstacle of my life as far as health. With the anemia, I got to a point where I passed out working out, and then again in a parking lot, and picked myself up. And
it's
I've been through the last 2 months. I've been through every heart test and stress test and blood test, and I've just been through everything. And it's interesting because you just want it to be something. You want to know what it is, first of all, of course, and then you want it to be something that I can help.
Yes, you're a helper.
So that was always
that's
helper. The scary part about waiting for tests. Yeah. Is like, okay, what is it? And now we're starting to figure some stuff out. And my blood work's getting better. I ended up getting 4 iron infusions, which was pretty heavy stuff. But and
can't imagine.
Also, just learning a lot. And of course, as you know, when these things happen, when injuries happen, or life-threatening things happen, you just you have a greater blessing for life, for movement, for being able to work out.
Yes.
And I did my iron infusions with people that were getting chemo for cancer. And so, just being there in that environment, and then seeing, like, I got the echogram of my heart. So I got to see what my heart actually looks like and how the valves work. And so that's another thing about injuries and health is I take it as an opportunity as well to really learn about what's happening inside of you and just empower yourself more. Don't just listen to what, doctors tell you, but actually, be interested. I say be fascinated by what happens in your body. It's super cool.
I mean, first of all, thank you so much for sharing that. I know it can always be really difficult talking about these things, and I saw you had shared it before, so I was a little bit more comfortable with bringing it up with you. And honestly, I think, we kind of touched on it before, like sharing our own stories is, I think, crucial in helping others. There's other people that are going through exactly what you're going through. There are other people that are going through what I'm going through. And I mean, I've had this chronic neck injury for 4 years, and I was like at a point where, okay, I guess I'm just going to have to live with this. And then it was like a month ago now where, I didn't pass out, but I, like, as you were talking, I was like, well, I had 2 nights in a span of 4 nights where I was doing something very simple and my neck spasmed. I couldn't move it in any direction, and I was on the floor and I couldn't move, and I had to sleep on the floor for 2 nights out of 4 nights. And like, here we are, my wife and I have this, 3-month-old baby daughter, and I'm like, I'm 31 years old right now, and I'm curled up on the floor. I literally can't move. I can't hold my daughter. I'm like, how can I provide, I'm going to get emotional even talking about it, because I'm like, how can I provide for my daughter if I can't even hold her? I can't even move. Like, my wife can barely put a cover on me because I'm in such a fragile state right now. So, I may have not done exactly, gone through what you've gone, but we've all gone through like similar shit. Like, life can be really hard, and you're always like, there's always the time where you're like, why me? Like, I'm not even doing crazy shit in the military anymore. I was like drying my hair after a shower, and my neck like went ballistic. Like, you don't think about that shit, or you're at a gym, like, you don't think that's gonna happen to you. You're a healthy person. I can see, like, and your track record's pretty good. So like, just know that, like, we're talking about this stuff. Maybe talk about it with somebody in your life, and it's gonna help you. It's not gonna be easy, but talk about it and get it off your chest more than anything. Like, you're literally helping me by talking about it, because it's like super emotional for me. And I just got a shot in my neck. I still can't work out. I'm going to physical therapy, so it's like, it's not gonna end immediately, but you do the best you can every single day, just like everything else in your life. Your career, we're talking about careers, helping other people and evolving. And I think if you continuously do that and you just try to apply the best mindset you can every single day, like, okay, life, like, throw it at me, take your best shot, but you best bet your ass I'm going to give it everything I have every single day, and I'm going to continue to help people along the way. And this is exactly what this has been here today. And I I have more than thoroughly enjoyed my conversation with you, and especially to like pick apart your whole entire career like that, and you talk about helping others and everything that we talked about, and ending relatively emotionally, and being able to share stories like that, I think is absolutely key. And I love conversations, hence why they're called this. And I think it's really important for people to start doing this. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you for opening up, sharing your story and your career with me and all the listeners.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being vulnerable. That's, these are some big things. And again, simple things we don't do in our life is, just be conscious of ourselves and what's happening, and also just be willing to be vulnerable. Vulnerable is not weakness, it's courage.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the kind of stuff I used to see in my practice. People come in just crying because they can't pick up their kid.
Yeah.
But that's one of my biggest takeaways right now, especially if, from what I'm going through is we don't have, people talk about these buckets, right? We have like health, we have family, we have fun, we have these buckets, right? But really, we have one bucket. We have our health, us. Our health is one bucket that's now pouring into the cups of life, which is your family, your kids, your fun, right? But without us and without our health, which is more of what I want to get people to do, is take care of themselves first, and then you can pour from that cup.
I love that. I've heard the bucket analogy, if you will, but I've never heard it described in that sense. So that's really cool, and I absolutely agree with that. That's really cool. Thanks for sharing that. What's the best place that people can get a hold of you? They want to get a hold of you? Instagram, website?
Instagram, I'm probably on the most. Facebook, I'm terrible on. But everywhere, I'm Dr. Trisha Smith on Instagram, Facebook, and I also have my Expand Your Human Facebook page as well. My website is drtrishasmith.com.
Perfect. So. Trisha, thank you so much for being here with me today. And like I said, thanks again for your time. And I absolutely enjoyed it speaking with you. It was really awesome, to say the least. Have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thank you.
See ya.